Too many people wake up every single day feeling like they're already behind, already beaten. Not by the world, not by their circumstances, but by their own thoughts. Those voices in your head, the ones that whisper, you're not good enough, you'll never make it, you're stuck. Those voices are not you. That is not your truth. That is just a conditioned pattern, an old recording from your past, from fear, from pain, from other people's opinions you unknowingly adopted as your own. But here's the truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. And if you can observe them, you can choose to change them. Your mind is powerful, so powerful that it can create heaven or hell without anything changing outside of you. But that power is neutral until you give it direction. Think about this. A knife in the hands of a surgeon saves lives. The same knife in the wrong hands can destroy. Your thoughts are like that knife. They are tools. And unless you consciously take control, they will be shaped by fear, by doubt, by your past pain. But when you step into your true identity, the driver of your own mind, you become unstoppable. Negative feelings are not a flaw. They're feedback. They are signals trying to tell you something. Maybe you need to shift. Maybe you need to grow. Maybe you've been living small when you were born to play big. But the moment you believe the negative thought is who you are, you lose your power. The moment you say, I am anxious, or I am not worthy, you're not just describing a state, you're creating your reality. Words matter, language matters. Instead, try this. I'm feeling anxious right now, but I'm not anxiety. I'm experiencing it, and I have the power to move through it. And here's the secret. Feelings follow focus. If you constantly focus on what's wrong, what's missing, what might go wrong, your brain will give you more of that. That's its job, to protect you. But you're not here just to survive. You're here to thrive. So redirect that focus. Ask better questions. Instead of, why does this always happen to me? Ask, what can I learn from this? Or how can I grow from this? The second you do that, you interrupt the pattern. And when you interrupt a pattern enough times, you destroy its power. You have to make a decision today, a powerful, emotional, immovable decision that you will decide what you think, that you will choose what thoughts you give energy to, that when a negative emotion shows up, you won't run, you won't hide, you won't numb it, you'll face it. You'll learn from it. You'll use it as fuel. Because the key to your future is not out there. It's not in another person. It's not in another book. It's not in the approval of someone who didn't believe in you anyway. The key is you, the real you. The you who is powerful beyond measure. The you who can feel the fear and move anyway. The you who can stand in the middle of chaos and say, I choose peace. I choose strength. I choose growth. You are not your thoughts. You are the thinker, the director, the master. Own that truth, and there's no limit to what you can create. Your future doesn't begin with changing the world. It begins with changing your mind. Every single emotion you've ever felt, whether it was joy, rage, fear, courage, or confidence, was triggered not just by what you were thinking, but by what you were doing with your body, your breath, your posture, your movement. The truth is your body doesn't lie. You can say you're fine, you can say you're confident, but if your shoulders are slouched, your breathing is shallow, and your head is down, you're not fooling anyone, especially not yourself. Because your emotions are directly linked to your physical state. Change the motion, and you change the emotion. Think about it. When you were at your lowest, what did your body look like? Your shoulders were heavy. You barely moved. Your energy was flat. You were physically shrinking into yourself. Now think of a moment when you felt proud, truly proud. How were you standing? How were you breathing? Your chest was up, eyes forward, body energized. You weren't even thinking about it. It just happened. That's because when your physiology changes, your state changes. And when your state changes, everything changes. You don't have to wait for motivation to move. That's the lie most people believe. They sit around hoping for inspiration, for clarity, for some magical burst of motivation. But the truth is, motion creates motivation. Action ignites emotion. You start moving with power, and suddenly the fog lifts. You start breathing with strength and depth, and suddenly the anxiety weakens. You take bold physical action, and confidence shows up not as a feeling, but as a result. This isn't hype. This is how your nervous system works. Your brain and body are always communicating. When you walk fast with energy, your brain gets the signal. Something's happening. We're alive. We're in control. We're on a mission. But when you sit still for hours, scrolling, hunched over, doing nothing, your body sends a very different signal. We're defeated. We're overwhelmed. We're stuck. That becomes your reality, not because of circumstances, but because you let your body define your state. So what does this mean for you? It means you have the power to change how you feel at any moment. Not by forcing fake positivity, but by moving in alignment with the emotion you want to feel. Want to feel powerful? Stand like it, walk like it, breathe like it. Want to break out of sadness? Jump, dance, scream, shake it off. Interrupt the pattern. Your body is the tool. Use it to shift the storm inside you. Athletes do this before every game. Performers do this before going on stage. They don't wait to feel ready. They get their body in state, and then the mind follows. You can do the same every morning. Don't roll out of bed and drag your feet through the day. Get up with force. Move with power. Own your space. Prime your body, and your emotions will rise to meet that energy. And here's what's even more powerful. When you start practicing this daily, when you train your body to move like the person you want to become, you start to rewire your identity. You stop being the person who feels stuck and start becoming the person who acts strong and then feels strong. You take control back, not from the world, but from the habits and patterns that once kept you trapped. You are not a victim of your feelings. You are the creator of them. Move differently, breathe differently, live differently, and everything you feel will shift with it. Emotions are not random. They are built by repetition. And every time you choose motion over stagnation, power over passivity, your future becomes something greater. You want to change your life? Change how you move right now, right here, because your body is the doorway to your freedom. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. That's not just a clever phrase. It's the law of life. Most people are not living their lives. They are living their fears, their doubts, their worries, because that's where their focus is planted day after day. They're not building their dream. They're feeding their pain. And the mind, it's a magnifying glass. Whatever you point it toward gets bigger. You focus on problems, your problems feel overwhelming. You focus on gratitude, your strength multiplies. You focus on what's missing, and your life feels like it's falling apart, even when you have so much to be thankful for. Your focus is your filter. And most people don't even realize they've been programmed to focus on the negative. The brain was built for survival, not success. It scans for danger, for risk, for what might go wrong. That's the default. That's what kept us alive for thousands of years. But you're not here to just survive. You're not a caveman hiding from a predator. You're here to lead. You're here to create. You're here to build something extraordinary. And for that, you need to choose your focus. You need to condition it like a muscle. When you wake up, do you immediately think of what's wrong, what you have to fix, what might fail? Or do you ask yourself, what's great in my life right now? What am I proud of? What am I excited about? What's one thing I can conquer today? One small shift in focus can completely change your emotional state, your confidence, and your performance. But you have to own that shift. It won't happen by accident, and happens by intention. The truth is, your mind will find whatever it's looking for. If you look for pain, you'll find it. If you look for reasons to feel defeated, they'll show up everywhere. But if you train your focus to seek progress, you'll start seeing how far you've come. If you train your focus to hunt for opportunity, you'll see doors open that you never noticed before. Life isn't about what's happening, it's about what you're noticing. And what you notice becomes what you feel. And what you feel becomes what you do. You ever notice how two people can go through the same exact event, but one grows stronger while the other crumbles? The difference isn't in the event, it's in the focus. One person focuses on what they lost, the other focuses on what they learned. One person focuses on how unfair it is, the other focuses on how they'll rise. Same event, different lens. And that lens is what creates reality. Don't let your focus be hijacked by your environment. Social media, the news, toxic people, they're all fighting for your attention. And if you're not intentional, you'll spend your life focusing on things that disempower you, distract you, drain you. Guard your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. Your focus shapes your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, your destiny. This is why the most powerful people in the world are not the ones who have the most time or the least problems. They're the ones who can master their focus in any situation. They feel fear, but they focus on the mission. They feel pain, but they focus on the purpose. They experience setbacks, but they focus on the comeback. That's what creates reality. Not wishful thinking, not luck, but directed attention. So ask yourself, what are you focusing on today? What are you allowing to grow in your mind? Are you focused on what empowers you or what enslaves you? Because the minute you take control of your focus, you take control of your life. Your reality is not written in stone. It's shaped moment by moment by what you choose to see, believe, and act on. Shift your focus, and you will shift your future. Every human being lives by a story. It's the invisible script running in the background of your mind, telling you who you are, what you're capable of, what you're allowed to dream, and where your limits lie. But here's the truth most people never fully realize. That story is not fixed. It's not written in stone. It's written by you. And you can rewrite it at any moment. The power to transform your life lies not in some distant future or external breakthrough. It lies in your decision to change the meaning of your past and the direction of your future by rewriting the narrative you've been telling yourself. We often inherit stories from our family, culture, environment, or past experiences. Maybe your story has told you, I'm not good enough, people like me never succeed, or every time I try, I fail. These are not truths, they are patterns. And the moment you recognize them as patterns and not facts, you reclaim the pen. You stop being the victim of the story and become its author. That shift is where all change begins. Because you can't create a new life with the same old story. Ask yourself, whose voice is narrating my life? Is it the voice of a disappointed parent, a failed relationship, a traumatic memory, or your own fear? If that voice is not building you up, it's time to challenge it. The story you've been living might have been written in survival mode, shaped by pain, fear, or scarcity. But you're no longer that scared version of yourself. You've grown, you've endured, and now you're ready to lead. When you rewrite your story, you're not pretending the past didn't happen. You're deciding it doesn't get to control the rest of your life. Instead of saying, I failed, so I must be a failure, you say, that failure taught me something powerful. It made me stronger, wiser, more prepared. That shift in perspective turns obstacles into stepping stones. And once you start telling yourself a new story, your brain starts wiring itself to believe it. Suddenly you walk differently, speak differently, expect differently. And those new expectations shape your reality. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones who never faced hardship. They're the ones who edited their narrative in the face of it. They said, this is not how my story ends. They chose to see setbacks as setups for comebacks. They made a conscious decision to frame their experiences in ways that fueled their progress instead of freezing them in place. You can do the same. Your future is not a continuation of your past unless you allow it to be. If you keep replaying the same internal script, you'll keep experiencing the same limitations. But the moment you rewrite the story, you change the trajectory of your life. Tell yourself a story where you are the hero, where your flaws become fuel, where your pain becomes power, where the impossible becomes inevitable because you believe in your ability to create, adapt, and rise. So how do you begin? You make a decision, a real non-negotiable decision that the old story no longer serves you. Then you begin to speak a new one, out loud, on paper, in your actions, in your habits, in your mindset. Instead of saying, I can't, say, I'm learning. Instead of saying, I'm broken, say, I'm healing. Instead of saying, I've missed my chance, say, I'm just getting started. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are the author. And the pages ahead are blank. Pick up the pen. Write something worth living. Change doesn't start with a goal, it starts with a standard. Most people don't get what they want in life, they get what they're willing to tolerate. Your life right now is a reflection of the standards you've accepted, the minimums you've settled for, and the identity you've been carrying. If you want to experience a radical shift in any area, your body, your finances, your relationships, your confidence, you don't need to start by doing more. You need to start by being more. And that begins with raising your standards and shifting your identity to match the life you desire. What are standards? They are the non-negotiables, the baseline of what you'll accept from yourself and the world around you. The difference between someone who thrives and someone who barely survives is often a matter of what they refuse to tolerate. One person says, I should work out, while another says, I must work out, because that's who I am. One says, I should be more disciplined, and another says, I am a disciplined person. That difference in language reveals the identity behind the action, and it's your identity that shapes your destiny. Most people try to change their lives by forcing new behaviors while still clinging to an old identity. But if your identity still says, I'm lazy, or I'm not confident, or I never follow through, then no matter how hard you try, your subconscious will pull you back to the level of the person you believe you are. It's like having a thermostat set to 70 degrees. Even if you blast the air conditioner or the heat for a while, the system will bring everything back to the default setting. To truly change, you don't just tweak the temperature, you change the setting. You reset who you believe yourself to be. When you raise your standards, you're not just demanding more from the world, you're declaring a new version of yourself to yourself. You say, this is who I am now. This is what I expect. This is what I deserve. And anything less is not even an option. That's the moment transformation begins. Not because you've suddenly become perfect, but because your identity shifts. And with that shift comes a new level of behavior that aligns with that identity. But this doesn't come from just wishing or hoping. It comes from decisions backed by action. You prove your new identity to yourself by the decisions you make and the habits you commit to. You don't wait to feel motivated. You act as the person who already lives at that higher standard. You don't say, one day I'll be that person. You say, today I act as if I already am. Want to be confident? Start showing up like someone who is, even when your knees are shaking. Want to be wealthy? Start managing your money and your mindset like someone who values abundance. Want to be healthy? Then stop negotiating with excuses and start aligning your choices with someone who values vitality. There will be resistance. Your old self won't go down without a fight. But each time you override the old script, each time you say no to the old standard, each time you choose to be the person you've decided to become, you weaken the old identity and strengthen the new one. Over time, that new identity becomes second nature. You no longer have to try to be disciplined or confident or successful. You simply are. So ask yourself, what have I been tolerating? What have I accepted as normal? that is nowhere near the life I know I'm capable of living. Then make the decision not to dabble, not to test, but to raise your standard and become the version of you who lives at that new level. That shift is everything. Raise the bar and become the person who belongs above it. There comes a moment in every life when you realize it's not your background, not your past, not your pain, not even your circumstances that define where you end up. It's your decisions. The choices you make moment by moment are writing the script of your destiny. And here's the truth most people run from. You decide what your life becomes, not by some massive event, not by fate, but by the tiny, quiet, repeated choices you make every single day. Whether to fight or fold, whether to rise or retreat, whether to stay in fear or step into growth. One decision can change everything. One decision to say no more. One decision to raise your standards. One decision to forgive, to commit, to let go, to start. That one moment, that one choice can redirect the entire course of your life. But most people don't realize the power of their decisions because they've handed that power over to their excuses, to their doubts, to the voices in their head that tell them to play it safe. But safe doesn't build dreams. Safe doesn't break chains. Safe never made history. You decide who you are. You decide what you tolerate. You decide what story you keep telling yourself. Are you the victim who was wronged, or are you the warrior who got stronger because of it? Are you the person who's stuck, or the person who's just one decision away from a breakthrough? You don't need years to transform your life. You need one moment of absolute clarity and total commitment. That's where destiny changes. Right there. The truth is, your life right now, everything you're experiencing, is the result of the decisions you made yesterday, last week, last year. And if you want a new life, you don't wait for luck. You don't hope someone saves you. You decide differently right now, because the most dangerous decision is no decision. Indecision is a decision. It's a decision to remain the same. And that comfort zone that feels safe, it's a slow death. It steals your power. It numbs your passion. It keeps your dreams just out of reach forever. You have to decide what you stand for. Decide what you'll no longer accept. Decide who you're going to become. Not someday, but today. Right here, right now. Because when you finally decide, with all of you, not half-hearted, not maybe, not if it's easy, but with full emotional conviction, the world moves, life bends in your favor, doors open, energy rises. But the key is the decision must come from you, not your family, not your past, not your environment, you. Think of the most powerful people you admire. They didn't have perfect conditions. They didn't have certainty. What they had was a decision, a deep, unshakable decision about who they were going to be, what they were going to give, what they were no longer willing to settle for. And they acted on it, even when it was scary, especially when it was scary, because decision is the first step toward freedom. It's the moment you reclaim your power. It's the moment you stop reacting and start creating. Life doesn't happen to you. It responds to you. But only when you show up with intention, clarity, and action. So ask yourself right now, what decision have you been avoiding? What choice have you been postponing that could shift your entire life? You already know the answer. You just haven't fully committed to it yet. But if you want to change your life, you have to change your decisions, because that's how your destiny is shaped. Not someday, not after it's easy, not when it's convenient, but now. Decide and never look back.